Welcome back to the Synergistic Edge, where high performers win everywhere. And in today's episode, episode 4, I'm going to talk about why high performers are inconsistent with their health and how to fix it. This is one of these things that I get all the time. When I'm having conversations, the number one complaint that I get is that they can't be consistent. And there's a lot of different variables and reasons why. And there's even some individual ones that are very specific for each and every one of you. But what I want to talk about here are some of the biggest common things that stop you from being consistent. And I want to give you some very tangible tools on how you can fix that. Tell me if this rings true for you. Do you see yourself as the type of person who knows exactly what to do to be healthier, to feel better, to look better, to perform better, but you simply don't do it? You've read all the books, you've heard a bunch of the podcasts, you have friends or different people that you look to that have given you a bunch of great ways to go about bettering your health, but you just can't seem to be consistent with it. If that's you, let me be the first to tell you, you are not alone. And one of the biggest things that I know is a misconception, and maybe you think this way about yourself, but the problem is not that you lack discipline. Because here's the thing. You are extremely disciplined when it comes to your work. You show up each and every day. You get the big tasks done. You show up no matter what is going on. And to me, that shows that you do have a high level of discipline. But maybe that level of discipline is not showing up inside of your health. And I understand why you think that the problem is that you're not disciplined enough, because typically discipline is the answer. But think about this. There's other things that have to happen beforehand that actually will allow you to be disciplined going forward. But the first thing I want to talk about is this myth around discipline. I would venture to say that the reason why you're inconsistent with your health has nothing to do with discipline, but it's actually because you're overextended. You have a lot that you have to do. You have a lot of mental decisions, of physical energy that you have to use in order for you to succeed and have others succeed and have clients be successful with your work. But you're also under supported. Who is on your team right now that is helping you with your health? Probably no one. You don't have someone there that can take away some of the decision fatigue that you have from all of your everyday responsibilities at work and at home. And that's making it more simple for you to show up for your health in a consistent way. So this combination of being overextended and under supported is the real reason why you're struggling with consistency in your health. So I want you to understand this is not a mental weakness issue. This is not a lack of discipline issue. This isn't about not having enough willpower. Without further ado, let's go into the 4 real reasons why high performers struggle with their consistency as it pertains to their health. The first reason is decision overload. You make so many decisions each and every day that by the time you finish with your work, there's nothing left in the tank to allow you to make great decisions as it pertains to your health. Think about this for a moment. How often do you get home from work, or even before you even leave work? Maybe you're just in the parking lot in the car getting ready to drive home, and you feel that your nervous system is absolutely fried. You might have a headache. Your eyes might feel heavy. Your body probably feels tired. And if you do feel this, these are symptoms of decision fatigue. And because you're so tired and you don't have the requisite energy, it makes it dang near impossible to now start to make a bunch of decisions around your health. Does that make sense? Is that something that you experience pretty often? Because about before in the previous episode about the synergistic method, when it pertains to having enough energy in the body, that's where our nutrition comes in. That's where the sleep, the rest, the recovery comes in. But if you're not getting enough of those things, by the time you finish the workday, your tank is going to be completely on empty. So to think that you're going to get home at 6, 7 o'clock and then jump into a workout, or that you're going to now cook a big healthy meal, let alone have a bunch of energy for your spouse and for your kids, it's going to be impossible if the energy is not there. And energy is a finite source, but it's something that we can constantly work to build when you have the right systems in place. But right now, you don't have the system that allows you to expand your capacity, to have more bandwidth, to have more energy day to day, to ensure that when it comes time to leave work and work on your health, there's still energy there to pour into it. So I want you to understand your mind is not weak. It's actually fried because of all of the decision fatigue that you're facing day in and day out, and how it's accumulated over the weeks, months, quarters, and years inside of your career. The second reason that you might not be consistent in your health is from what I call identity drift. In the last episode, I talked about the dynamic identity and how important it is to see yourself as someone who is healthy and therefore creates these healthy decisions. But what happens is if your identity drifts away from that and you strictly only see yourself as your career, as your job title, as that part of your life, then it's really easy to not be able to put in the consistent actions around your health. Maybe early on in your career, it was a lot easier to identify as this healthy version of yourself. And the reason why is because you didn't have the same level of responsibilities. As you're climbing the corporate ladder, you understand that there are more responsibilities that are put on your plate. Maybe before you were an individual contributor and now you are a partner at your firm, or you are an executive with a big team underneath you. And because of that, these added responsibilities take away from your mental capacity to work on your health. You're worried about all of these activities that you got to do. You're worried about all of the people that you need to lead. You're worrying about all of the clients that you have to perform for. And again, all of those things are super important. But if your mind and your identity is only rooted in that part of your life, then of course, your health, well-being, fitness, all of it is going to be put to the side. And that's just your responsibilities increasing at work. We haven't even talked about what's going on at home. So if during this time when you were 20 or in your early 20s, maybe you were single, you didn't have a wife or a husband, you didn't have kids, but now that you have a family, you understand that now there's a bunch of responsibilities at home as well. There's certain things you got to get done around the house. Maybe you're running your kids to their sporting events, or maybe it's trying to have time to play with your kids at home. Maybe it's having time to talk with your spouse and talk about how the day went or where things are going or what you're all are working on. And again, when you have all of these responsibilities at home, there takes a certain amount of mental capacity and also physical energy to be able to be present and dive deep into those activities or those conversations. And again, if there's anything left over, that's typically what's reserved for these health activities, for going to the gym, for taking time to breathe and decompress, to meditate a little bit, whatever it might be. But if you don't have the capacity or the energy to do those things, they're not going to get done. And then it ends up creating this negative feedback loop where nothing happened to pour back into your health, your vitality, your energy. And by the time you go to the next day, you have to do the same thing again. And then as the weeks, the months, the years start to combine, that's what creates a lot of the mental fatigue. That's what creates a lot of the lack of movement, the convenience of eating certain fast foods, not taking time to sleep more and all of that. Or it shows up as these ineffective ways of managing stress, where it's drinking more alcohol than what's needed. Maybe it's eating in a bunch of comfort fast foods or desserts or whatever they may be. And as a result, all of that continues to pile up. And that's what over time leads to disease. That's what leads to the type 2 diabetes. That's what leads to the future heart attack or stroke. That's what leads to a potential cancer diagnosis. It's all of these things that we've done, all of this debt that's accumulated in terms of lack of health, and it shows up in our body. It shows up in our mind as burnout. It shows up as being disconnected with our families, all because we are so tied up in only the work identity. So that's why I continue and will always harp on it's so important to have that dynamic identity where you see yourself as a healthy man or woman, where you see yourself as a great husband or wife, when you see yourself as a great mother or father, so that you can do the things that are associated with that identity. Now let's dive into reason number 3, why high performers struggle with being consistent in their health. And I think number 3 might be the biggest one, because without this, it's so hard to show up each and every day. It's hard to understand what are the big needle movers, what are the big rocks that are going to contribute to great health. And the third reason is a lack of structure. Based on having conversations with clients who are just like you know what it's like to have structure in your job. You know what it's like to have structure in your business. You know what it's like to have structure at the workplace. And because of that, you get a ton of things done. You know exactly what needs to get done right when you get at work. You know what needs to get done in the afternoon. You know what needs to get done before you leave. You know how you go about answering emails and calls and delegating and all of it. And because there's a structure there, things get done. But what happens is you do not have that same structure as it pertains to your health, fitness, wellness, well-being, all of it. And let me be the first one to tell you, if you decide that you're going to create the same level of structure, or at least strive to have the same level of structure in your health as you do your business, you will be successful in being consistent with your overall health. And there's different things that you want to think about as it pertains to structure, but the first place that it starts is understanding that it's needed, that you can't just go off of how you're feeling. If you're going to wait until you feel good to go work out, you're probably going to miss a lot of workouts because you have so much energy that's drained consistently. If you're going to wait until you feel good to start to eat better, then you're probably going to be waiting for a long time, because most people that I've worked with, they don't make the change until they feel terrible, until they're already burnt out, until they get to the point where they look at the mirror and don't even recognize that man or woman that's standing in front of them, and they're literally ashamed of the way that they look. This doesn't have to be you. And it happens when you start to incorporate a structure that works for your real life. And I talked about this before, but I hope you remember this, that when it comes to structure, the structure has to work around your life. You can't go and just do the average workout class. You can't go do the average workout plan. You can't do the average nutrition plan, because you're not the average person. You have a ton of responsibilities at work and at home. You have a lot of pressure on you to succeed. Your stress levels are typically higher. So we have to make sure that your structure is set up in such a way that it allows you to create the time for it without necessarily adding more stress. And that's something that we'll talk about a little bit later in the podcast. But I want you to understand, you need to create a structure that works for your real life, and understand that a lot of programs that are out there are built off of these ideal scenarios where you have 8 hours a week to spend on training, where you have all of this time to go grocery shopping and meal prepping and all of that. But again, you don't have the same amount of time. Your time is very limited. So something you want to think about is, how do I create structure with the limited time that I have? And something that I do with my clients is, one, we get very clear on what does your schedule look like? And again, your schedule might be different week to week, but we break it down by week to week. We break it down by the overall month. We break it down by knowing what the flow of your quarter looks like, depending on your work, so that we can understand, here is where we start to place these different health activities into your schedule so that there is structure. And again, this structure gets to be built off of your floor, not ideal situations, because at the end of the day, your floor is what's going to dictate what we can put in consistently. So for example, if your floor only allows you to consistently train for 2 hours a week, we have to make sure that we're creating a training system that allows you to hit the things for your heart health, that allows you to hit the right things to be able to put on muscle, or at least maintain muscle, to do the right things that it's going to give you more energy than just taking it all away, so that you can do it consistently. And then as you're stacking that up brick by brick, that's how you build a great, strong, robust body. Something that I'm really big fan of is called movement snacks. And a movement snack can be just like what it sounds. You might not have time for a whole meal, so you eat something small, something quick. It's the same thing with your movement. I have clients, especially my lawyer clients, where they're on back-to-back meetings, they're drafting things, there's a lot of deadlines. And instead of saying, hey, you're going to do this hour workout, it might be, hey, throughout the workday, we're going to do this many flights of stairs. You might know that you're going to get a short 10-minute break from one call to the next call. So you're going to go out, you're going to do stairs and just walk them for 5 minutes, get back to your desk and get right back to the meetings. And what that allows is that it allows movement to happen in the body. It allows them to work their legs a little bit. Something we'll do too is, hey, you're going to get 10 push-ups in during the hour. And then whenever they get a minute, boom, they just drop down, get 10 push-ups, come back up. And the cumulative effect of this, of just moving the body, is actually going to bring more energy to it versus just sitting in front of the computer and just typing and talking all day long. We need the body to move. But again, do it in a way that fits your schedule. Same thing with food. If you know that you only have so much time to prep food, having something like a crock pot is huge, where you can get home, put a bunch of food in the crock pot, turn it on, let it cook on high for 3-4 hours while you're doing your work or doing stuff with your family. And then when that food is done, you're able to pack it up and take that for lunch the next 3-4 days. There are a bunch of ways that we can go about doing this. But again, you create the structure by finding the specific times in the schedule where you can make these things happen. And the fourth reason how I find people to be so inconsistent with their health is because of the all or nothing mentality. I know people who think that if they can't get at least an hour in at the gym, it's not even worth going. I know people where if they don't eat quote unquote perfect every single day, they just throw the towel in and they start just eating junk all the time again. Understand, the all or nothing mentality is the worst mentality that you can have for your health. And think about where this comes from. Do you identify as a quote unquote perfectionist? Is that you? Are you the type of person that says, well, I need things to be perfect? If you are, understand that's probably stopping you from actually having the consistency that you're looking for. Because number one, perfection doesn't actually exist. One of my favorite quotes/stories from Tony Robbins is where he talks about how perfection is actually the lowest standard that you can have for yourself because it's not actually possible. Think about that. There's no such way of being perfect with your health because at the end of the day, life happens. Things are going to come up. Things are going to change. Schedules get changed. And when that happens, it's easy to not have your way. But you can't let not having your way in one moment have you just throw in the towel and say, forget this. This isn't for me. It's all about being able to find a way to be what I call excellent. And excellence is a standard worth striving for. Excellence to me is showing up as your best and doing your best based off of the current circumstances. There's certain things that come up that's going to make your best look different versus what it would look like in optimal situations. For example, my energy levels are going to be a lot different when I have 8 hours of sleep versus when I have to stay up and I only have 5 hours of sleep. But understand, doing my best is an effort thing. I can still do my best and understand my best with 5 hours of sleep is going to look different than my best with 8 hours of sleep. And that's okay because it's not about quote unquote perfection. It's about doing the best I can with what I have. So if you can look yourself in the mirror and you can say each and every evening that I did my best today in my health because of all the circumstances that are going on, that is the win. It's not about being perfect because the minute that you're thinking that you need to be perfect to get this done, you will never show up consistently because the second that it doesn't go how you expect it to go, you're going to put yourself down, you're going to call yourself a failure, you're going to say it's not for you, and you're going to go right back to being inconsistent. So now what's the solution for these 4 things that I just went over? What are the things or the process or the structure that you can use to overcome that and to have consistent success in your health? I'm glad you asked. What I call this is the 3x80 principle. What the 3x80 principle is, it's number 1, 3 habits that you are going to decide to work on. And within those 3 habits, instead of trying to be perfect, you're looking to adhere to it at least 80%. And typically the way that I like to work with this with people at a high level is understanding that there's 3 main buckets you want to think about with these habits. You want to think about this from a movement perspective, from a nutrition perspective, and from a recovery perspective. So what can some of these habits look like from a movement perspective? We can talk about daily steps. You might say, hey, I want to hit anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day as my daily habit goal. That'd be a great one to have. You might say, hey, I want to make it to the gym 2 times per week. That would be a great one. It can be as simple as I want to take a 10-minute walk each and every day. It doesn't matter what it is to start, but what matters is that you have one that you're going to use and that you show up for it at least 80% of the time. So say I want to do a 10-minute walk every day. Well, if I do it 5 out of 7 days, that means I'm hitting at 83%. And that 83% compounded over a year is going to lead to some great results. And here's the thing, the time's going to go by anyways. So why not focus on doing your best to be at least 80% for the rest of the days? Because if you do that, your body, your mind, and overall how you feel, look, and perform are all going to change over that amount of time. The second core habit that I would focus on is something around your fuel, your nutrition, your hydration. So this could be something as, hey, I'm going to drink half of my body weight in ounces of water each and every day. So if I weigh 200 pounds, that means every single day I am working to drink 100 ounces of water. Another one could be eating protein at every meal. So many high performers are under eating protein. And when you're not getting enough protein in, that's going to impact your body composition. It's going to impact your hunger levels. It's going to impact your energy levels. So if you tell yourself, hey, I'm going to have protein at each and every meal, that is going to go a far way at helping you look, feel, and perform better. The goal here is to pick one thing for your nutrition, hydration, fueling to ensure that you're giving your body the resources it needs to look, feel, and perform its best. And the third habit I would think about is something around your recovery. It might be, hey, I'm going to make sure that I am in bed by 10:30 p.m. each night. Maybe it's I'm going to aim for a minimum of 7 hours of sleep per night. Maybe I'm going to take 10 minutes to simply breathe and unwind each and every night. Maybe it's I'm going to be off of my phone and off of all screens 1 hour before bed each night. All of these can have a huge impact on your recovery. And remember, your recovery is so important because that's when you recharge your battery. Have you ever walked around with your phone battery at 5% and you're just super anxious because your phone's about to die? And you can't wait to just plug it in and make sure that you have that peace of having a full battery? Your body and your mind is the same thing. You need to recharge the battery every night because if you're not getting enough sleep in, you're literally waking up and operating the entire day on 15% battery. And how well can your phone work if it's only at 15%? You can only get so much out of it before it dies. It's the same thing with you. If you don't fully charge your battery, you're going to only have so much bandwidth, so much energy, so much capacity to operate in that day. So think about your recovery as you recharging the battery and ensuring how important it is to have a full battery each and every day. So if you decide to hit these 3 areas at least 80% consistently for the next month, I guarantee you the way you feel is going to be completely different. And you're going to feel a huge difference in the positive direction for your energy and also how your body looks. So that's my challenge to you. Pick 3 of these. Pick something for your recovery, pick something for your nutrition, pick something for your movement. Make it simple, make it something that you can fit into your schedule, create this type of structure and follow it at least 80% and see that your life doesn't change. And finally, I want to wrap up this podcast with what I call the identity upgrade. Again, when I talk about the dynamic identity, it's understanding that identity is what allows us to really create change. How we see ourselves dictates what we do. Who we see ourselves to be dictates how we act. So I want to invite you to upgrade your identity. I'm not saying get rid of just the identity of being a high performer in the workplace. I want you to add that identity of being a high performer in your health as well. And understanding when you identify that, instead of saying, oh, I'm trying to eat better, or I'm trying to exercise more, or I'm trying to get to sleep earlier, start to think, how does a person who prioritizes their health sleep? How does someone who prioritizes their health eat? How does someone who prioritizes their health move? And when you start to look at it from that frame, from that lens, and you decide to embody and be this person, you will show up more consistently for yourself. But if you're not going to adopt this identity, if you're not going to see yourself and be that person, then you are going to continue to be inconsistent each and every day. So I want you to decide, who are you becoming in this process? Because when your identity is in the right place, you are naturally going to act in accordance to that identity, and you're going to have the benefits that you're looking to get. So when you become the type of person who takes care of themselves, consistency isn't forced, it's inevitable. So please take that time to sit down, reflect, start to work on your 3x80 habits. And if you have any questions, you want some resources on how you can be more consistent in your health, DM me on Instagram. I will send you my Consistently Well playbook, which is going to help you develop the things that we talked about today, create your 3x80 habits, and be able to hit the ground running and being that healthier, high-performing version of yourself at work and at home. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the leadership cost of being unhealthy, how it impacts your energy, your leadership, your presence, and ultimately how you're showing up at work and at home. If this episode hit home for you, please subscribe, share it with a friend, a colleague, a family member. And remember, let's focus on consistency over perfection, on excellence over perfection. And by embodying this, by identifying as someone who is a healthy man or woman, this is going to put you in the best position to be consistent over the long term. Stay dynamic, my friend. You can too.